It's 10 a.m. Hello and welcome to a special coverage of the public inquiry into the EJURA killing incident. It's day 4, and a family of Kaaka have written to the Interior Minister saying they will not be attending the committee's hearing. Also, we expect that some residents of EJURA will appear, and the National Investigative Bureau's rep or coordinator in the Ashanti region will also appear. He was supposed to do so yesterday, but we are told by the chairperson of the committee that he had to attend to some other matters. So we'll be bringing you more on this and many other developments regarding the work of the committee. And the family of the slain EJURA social activist Ibrahim Mohammed alias Kaaka says it will not appear before the Justice Commission-led committee to give testimony of events that led to his death. In a letter to the Interior Minister, family spokesperson Nafiu Mohammed said the family does not trust the committee to be impartial in its hearings. It further says the committee's work lacks focus and is digressive. At the moment, at the Prempeh Assembly Hall, the committee is ready to start work. We just expect that to begin in a few minutes. But also at 12 noon, the family of Kaaka will be addressing the press at the same venue. Very interesting development. So do stay with us. We'll be bringing you more on that. But let me just bring you some highlights of that letter written to the Interior Minister, which was copied to the chair of the Committee of Inquiry, Kumasi, and Nana Hene Berima Osehwede II, who is the chief of EJURA. Now it says, we, the family of Ibrahim Kaaka Mohammed, regret to formally notify you of a decision to not participate in the ongoing public inquisition, which is purportedly concerned with the circumstances that led to the unfortunate occurrences of Tuesday, 29th June 2020. As you may be aware, we, like many people in EJURA, welcomed and continue to appreciate the President's decision to instruct you to inquire into the circumstances that led to indiscriminate killing of the people of EJURA by members of our military forces. We congratulate you on your decision to heed the call of civil society organizations to recuse yourself from the inquiry and to set up a separate committee of inquiry. Now, this is where they start raising issues. However, events over the past few days have left less certain of the scope, focus, real intent, and even utility of the ongoing inquiry. As such, we feel let down in our enthusiasm for what we assumed will provide a much-needed opportunity for truth, soul-searching, and institutional accountability for state-sanctioned violence. And they add that, in addition, having sought and obtained independent legal advice as to the work of the committee and our rights vis-à-vis the committee, we have become apprehensive of the substantive and procedural regularity of the committee's work. We are also now concerned that the committee's work does not provide the appropriate framework for a full, faithful, and impartial inquiry as envisaged under Article 278 of the 1992 Constitution. In this connection, we note in particular our regret with the decision not to establish this inquiry using the powers provided for under Article 278 of the 1992 Constitution. And it states further, we are concerned that the failure to institute a proper commission of inquiry under Article 278 means that this committee of inquiry does not have the powers, rights, and privileges of the High Court of a Justice of the High Court at a trial. As such, the committee has no power to enforce the attendance of witnesses and examine them on oath, compel the production of documents, and issue a commission or request to examine witnesses irrespective of where or who they may be. And so this is the first point they raised. There are 8 points, actually. My colleague Raymond Akwa, he's head of our research desk, he'll be joining me shortly for us to delve deeper into the concerns of Kaaka's family. But for now, let me bring you some highlights from day 3 of the hearing.
With this Anyas person, why do you think he will turn around to accuse you of certain happenings in EJURA, being your own party member?
As a political leader, most of the time, when things happen in a community or even in the country, we always try to put the blame on political heads. Happenings is on one unfortunate incidents, for example, the president will be somewhere, you see people pointing out fingers on the president. I think it's our politics, the politics that we do.
I want you to reduce it to your level because you have informed us that Anyas is your party member and he even has access to your house. Whatever it is, why do you think the man would behave the way you have described him? Why? Because he's your party member. Yes, we all know as any association we have good ones and bad ones. But to target you in person and make these accusations at you, why do you think will prompt or cause Anyas to do that?
I actually don't know what Anyas has done. But then, if I wasn't the MC or I'm not a political leader in EJURA, I don't think somebody would have pointed finger at me. Especially looking at the circumstance and the time at which we are. I believe that is the main reason why. But if I were not, I'm not the MC or I'm not the leader of the party from the period that I mentioned to date, I don't think somebody will point finger at me. Because we have different type of relationship with people. We have friends, we have people that you know because of party work, your party executive and all whatnot. So I believe it's because of the politics of it. That is why people want to link me to it.
These two men who were arrested, that it has been alleged they are your bodyguards. How well do you know them?
As I explained earlier on, I know them to be our party members and they are our polling station executives. That is how I know them.
Apart from that, you don't have any personal relationship with them?
We don't have personal relationship. Our relationship is political relationship.
Do you have a bodyguard?
I am somebody who mostly...
Do you have a bodyguard?
I have one police bodyguard that I work with sometimes.
You have one police escort?
Yes.
So personally, apart from that official escort, you don't have any personal bodyguard?
I don't have a personal bodyguard.
So why did they say that these two are part of your bodyguards?
That is the politics of it. That's what I was talking about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable, my final word to you. Do you think politics has anything to do with several such crises in Ghana?
Yes.
And in your jurisdiction?
Yes.
Thank you.
I left EJURA on Monday morning, 28, around 6 to 7 a.m.
And returned.
And on Tuesday, I returned to EJURA.
In the evening or afternoon?
Actually, I was going to EJURA in the afternoon. Then I had a call that I'm advised not to come to EJURA. So I tried to find out why shouldn't I come. Then that it was for security, for my own security. That is why I'm advised not to come to EJURA. And later on, some elders also sent a message through somebody to call and inform me that this is what is already. I'm abreast with what is happening. I'm in touch with all the security heads, and that this is what is happening on the ground. And for that matter, I should stay away for a while.
Okay, so then I will not press you further to tell us when you arrive back.
Very well.
That's fine. Thank you. Okay, so yes, please continue.
So generally, this is the briefing I had with regards to the issues that happened in EJURA between 26th and 29th. So after the 29th incident, we discussed among ourselves that we should find a way of supporting the security agencies so that they can be on the ground for some time to make sure that things normalize fully before they leave.
Yes. And the crowd that came there was so huge. It wasn't easy. So, as usual, things of this nature is a national issue. And when it's happening like that, as a doctor, you have to take all the necessary precautionary measures and actually advise for the body to be kept at the morgue for any further investigation. So after the death of the two, they came in and said they want to pick the body. I said, no, we don't do it like that. We have measures to take before actually releasing the body. But they realized I was delaying their time. And I said, oh, even for what happened, I have to call even the police. They will come, we both sit down, we'll get the relative, write their names, and for possible transfer of the body to the morgue, and we arrange for postmortem. It was then that, hey, they shouted that they would burn down the hospital if I try, and also our lives. They will actually beat us very, very well, and even leading to death.
So those are highlights of day 3 of the hearing into the EJURA killings. And first you heard from the MCE for EJURA, Secha Kumasi, Mohammed Salisu Bamba, and then the medical superintendent for EJURA, Dr. Manye. Well, before I brought to you those highlights, I was telling you about a letter from the family of Kaaka written to the Interior Minister notifying him of their decision not to participate in the hearings. And they've been citing a couple of reasons why they've decided not to do so. And I was just running you through some of them. The first one had to do with the powers of the commission. They think the commission is not powerful enough. But it is 8 points they raise here. And I've got my colleague, head of our research desk, Raymond Akwa, in studio with me. Good morning to you, Raymond.
Good morning.
It's been a very heavy discussion on this on the Super Morning Show. Yes. And we are extending it here as we wait for the probe to today's hearing to start. So let's take the second point that the family raises about the terms of reference of the committee. They say it's imprecise and confusing for them. And the letter states, as we have seen over the past few days, this lack of precision has regrettably caused the committee's work to be unfocused and digressive. Let me jump to point 5. They say our apprehension of the wisdom in the committee's attempts to portray the live media coverage of the horrible events of Tuesday as somehow causative, contributive, or excusive of the criminal misconduct of members of our security forces. We are concerned about the committee's bizarre focus on the media and its routine recourse to pejorative or prejudicial language in describing the actions of the media, including suggesting and allowing the idea to percolate that the video recordings of the shootings by journalists could have been doctored. We are concerned that these instances not only suggest that the committee has already made up its mind, thereby creating a perception of bias among many people, but also that it is courting disaffection for the very journalists who put their lives on the line so as to inform the public of the same events the president described as unfortunate occurrences, Raymond.
Now, first, the identification of what was the alternative on the table. And we think that it's the wisdom of I don't think it was the president that decided that the public inquiry shouldn't be a commission of inquiry. So I actually think that what happened was that the president gave the leeway to, and if you read it properly, the president said, let there be a public inquiry. Give me a report from the public inquiry. So 2 things are pretty clear here. An inquiry ought to be held and a report from that. What many had expected, because the powers of the Commission of Inquiry, which is an alternative to this one, is in 280 as they mentioned. it states, for example, that it shall make a full, faithful, and impartial inquiry into any matter specified in the instrument of appointment. So the president would have then issued an instrument, constitutional instrument, telling them exactly what they're supposed to do and what they're supposed to determine. And their terms of reference and everything will be in there. And the appointment and the other people on it will be determined. Now, if you look at this committee, it looks like a committee, because mostly a judge or a superior court judge, which is what we have here, and other people competent enough are the ones independent too, are the ones supposed to be on this particular panel. That is when we opted for, for example, in the Ayawaso West Wogon Commission, Commission of Inquiry. This is a committee. The committee, as has been happening over the period, hasn't had the powers or has not displayed the powers to be able to coerce witnesses or compel people to come before it. So this committee, for example, pleaded with the regional minister, Ashanti regional minister, to provide the person or the details of the person, and even suggested that we could do an anonymous engagement so that it will be in camera. We are engaging a guy, but it's not out there for people to see. We may not even know who he is, but let it be known to us. But the minister was still insistent that I'm not going to participate in this particular engagement. Because to some extent, the minister might feel that this committee was set up by my co-equal. That's another minister of a similar status. And if you want me to testify, you cannot do certain things to me. Again, many have also believed that the powers of the Committee of Inquiry are limited when it comes to comparison. I am only minded by the fact that Article 295 makes the committee, its interpretation, it deals with what is in the Constitution and what it means. It says that the Commission of Inquiry shall be deemed to be the same as a Committee of Inquiry. It then presupposes to me that it's only the effect of the report of the committee that may be different.
Not in the actual working.
Not in the actual working.
Commission and the committee.
So if this committee is failing to do the things it's supposed to do, it could be out of its own failure, not because it doesn't have enough powers to do so. And it has been exhibited by this committee. And they also talk about focus.
Raymond, I'll come back for us to talk about the bit on focus and the perception being thrown out about the possible influence of the media in the chaos that we saw at EJURA. But let me head now to the Prempeh Assembly Hall. My colleague Ohiming Teria is standing by for us. Hello, Ohiming. We understand that today we'll be hearing from the NIB coordinator in Kumasi, and we'll also be hearing from residents of EJURA. Tell us more.
Yes, Benny, the line is a bit faint, but I must say, yes, Colonel Francis Ifa, after retired, the Ashanti Regional Security Coordinator, is expected to appear and testify before the committee today here at Prempeh Assembly Hall. And we have also been informed that 3 residents of EJURA will also appear before the committee as well to testify. As at now, sitting is yet to commence, and I must say journalists have gathered here waiting for the arrival and then start of proceedings at the Prempeh Assembly Hall. And this morning, the discussion as to the Minister of Interior granting, extending the sittings, days for the committee's work here in Kumasi, also has been rife with journalists talking about it. It's been a talking point here at the Prempeh Assembly Hall, Benis.
Right, Ohiming, and the other talking point within the media, apart from the extension of the deadline, has to do with the decision by Kaaka's family not to testify before the committee. Are you able to tell us if the committee has received this letter? Because the chairperson of the committee has been copied. Do we know if the committee has received it?
I started making some checks last night, and the information I picked from the committee is that they have not officially received communication from the late Ibrahim Mohammed's family. The only issue is that, yes, the committee also did mention from a source that they haven't written officially to Kaaka's family to testify before the committee, just that when the committee went to EJURA, they did extend invitation to residents of EJURA and anybody alike in EJURA who may want to give information to the committee to do so, especially when they met the EJURA Hene. So the committee, I'm reliably informed, is yet to receive the letter from Kaaka's family. We are also informed that the family will also be in Kumasi to meet the journalists here and also express or give some information as to why they are withdrawing from participating in the committee's hearing in Kumasi. So yes, we are expecting probably when the committee says they may want to communicate or comment on this. Whether they comment on this or not, what we are reliably informed is that the communication has not gotten officially to the committee yet.
Usually, around this time, the committee would have started its work. Do we know why the delay?
Unfortunately, no. I can't really tell why the committee is yet to sit. It's been the normal procedure here that they start sittings at 10 a.m. On the dot. But this morning, that is not the case. But as to why the committee is yet to sit has not been communicated to the media here. But I must say, yes, the media is here. Journalists are anxiously waiting for the start of proceedings here. We are only waiting for the arrival of the committee members and then so they kickstart today's business here.
All right, Ohiming, we'll leave it here for now while we continue discussing the details of Kaaka's family's letter, and when the committee, I beg your pardon, begins its work, we'll cross over to you. That's my colleague Ohiming Teria joining us from the Prempeh Assembly Hall in Kumasi, where the committee has been working from since Tuesday. We've seen different witnesses. We've seen reps from our security forces, the police, the military. We've seen the Ashanti Regional Minister. There have been 2 reps from the media, my very colleague Erastus Asare Donko, whose hearing has generated a lot of talking points and discussions, especially on social media. And that is also captured in that letter by Kaaka's family, where they talk about the apprehension they have about the committee attempting to portray the live media coverage of the horrible events of Tuesday as somehow causative, contributive, or exclusive of the criminal misconduct of members of security forces. And I must say that since this happened, there's been a lot of discussions on it, even here while we brought the live coverage on the Super Morning Show, various platforms of the multimedia platforms, and even different media houses talking about this. But the family is concerned that this is sending a certain signal to the populace. And we've even seen people come at us.
Generally, the expectation is that the members of the committee, as I did read out there in 280, make that faithful, impartial determination of the facts in this case. What is happening, which many have complained about, is the fact that there have been different categories of people that have come before the committee: the police officers and the military officers, the state officials, regional minister and the MCE. We've also had professionals like journalists and also the medical professionals that went there. The interesting part is that it does appear that when journalists appear before this committee, the committee is in a haste to establish some wrongdoing, with some commentary that suggests to many people that they either do not know what journalists are supposed to do or what really happened on the ground. They do not understand what, and the connection, let's be clear, is that they feel that when we are reporting this, we are connected the gentleman Kaaka to the Fix the Country movement. And in the words of the learned judge on the panel, that connection, which presupposes that he is a member of the group, we had not verified and be able to state categorically. And by failing or refusing, or in his own appreciation of it, by failing to verify the membership of the gentleman of the Fix the Country movement, we had invariably reported to the people of this republic that a member of the Fix the Country movement had been killed. That, right from the beginning, had lots of difficulties. First and foremost, it portrays some understanding, which is a bit problematic, of what the Fix the Country movement is about. A hashtag movement, as they have always consistently stated, is not one that requires people to sign up somewhere and be made to look like you are a member who pays dues or pays some amount of money to be identified within the group. That kind of thinking it's what made them to presuppose that Kaaka couldn't have been a member because he didn't sign up to any document or it wasn't verified such way. But two groups, Kaaka himself, as we have shown over the days, stated categorically that he was a member. And he was with the group. He had actually campaigned using the hashtag and everything. And if you want to know how people within such a grouping really operate, that's how they operate. Secondly, we all got to know about this incident with Kaaka first when he was attacked, because the Face the Country movement itself has stated that this gentleman, who is also a campaigner, had been attacked for doing work connected to this.
And I think, Raymond, as you continue, it's also worthy to note that we've received information that Kaaka was actually threatened while doing that particular campaign or social media activism.
There is a video of Kaaka speaking Hausa, and wonderful Malik Dabo has had time to translate it clearly to my appreciation. Kaaka himself had cause to believe that he could be, or his life was threatened, or he could be attacked for just pointing out to people in his community the things he considered were not done right. Of all the conceptions that can come to it, you get the impression from the committee, and they start by asking questions. When they ask the questions, regardless of what your answer is, they proceed to make the determination that, no, you failed to do something. And even a member of the committee had recourse to reference ethics that journalists are supposed to follow. And one, you do not know the difference between such a movement and how people become members or campaigners. And yet, you cannot say that because I do not know the difference, I cannot understand how membership is done, and that there are no members in this case. So if you consistently demand that people should establish a membership to be able to make them, connect them, you obviously do not know what you're talking about. But beyond that, you then proceed to say that you couldn't do that as a journalist, and that you failed in your journalistic quest to do what is right. Then finally, you conclude that people can cause harm in this country, and then contributed to what happened in EJURA. And see, let's be clear. We all saw that in the George Floyd case in the United States of America, it was a single filming of that young lady that was the most important determining factor in that judgment. We have a similar incident here, where a journalist doing their work, and let's not get it wrong, the media did not report before the incident happened.
Yes.
The media chased the incidents.
Yes.
And if you heard the testimony that's been put on, even the 28, there were problems there. And most of us, they don't know because we had really not considered Kaaka as a relevant part of this community in any way. Because ordinarily, if anybody like Kaaka died in any part of this country, nobody would have cared. It was because the incident was bringing up in EJURA that we needed to follow up and see what was happening. Because the Face the Country people have brought it to our attention that one of their own had been attacked. He was in the hospital and subsequently died. They issued statements. They actually did a social media press conference to state all of these things, to ignore all of these being stated before, and not even make a slight attempt to look for it, but rather proceed to presume that, well, you journalists have a tendency of doing evil or causing harm. And in this case, you might have contributed to it. Even when there's evidence suggests that that did not happen. So the family is worried about, why are you insisting on putting all of this on the journalist? When we and many people believe that there are other people involved. In any case, did any journalist hold any gun, shoot anybody, or ended up reporting anything that suggested that somebody ought not to be shot or should have been shot at a point in time?
Raymond, and it's important that you talk about the chronology of events, because it will help you appreciate what is happening now. So, like Raymond clearly stated, and even the MC for EJURA, Seche Dumasi, did state that before the 29th, that the actual protest happened, there was tension between the police and the youth, and even some political heads there. So, and if you've been following the work of the committee, you would also realize that the police officers who came mentioned that EJURA is a hotspot. There is a problem there. And so that's why we are trying to tell you how events occurred. Then you can make your own judgments as to whether it was the media that actually caused what happened. The people had gone to bury, and then whatever happened, happened. Even the police says they had received intelligence, I beg your pardon, prior to the events that this was going to happen. Now on the point 6, and if you just joined us, we are bringing you details of the family of Kaaka. They've made a decision not to appear before the committee probing the EJURA killings. And so point 6, they still talk about the committee and its work, saying that are concerned that the committee's attempts to portray the media's highlighting of Kaaka's affiliation with a Fix the Country call to action as somehow rushed and misguided do not tally with well-documented and easily accessible evidence of Kaaka's own self-description and online activism. We are disappointed, in particular, that the committee's haste to distance Kaaka from his Fix the Country online activism, in connection with which he received several death threats, some of which are captured on video, could potentially prejudice the ongoing criminal investigation into the circumstances and motivations of Kaaka's murder. As we understand from the police's own public communication, the question whether Kaaka was murdered because of his online activism is probably a line of inquiry that is still an active part of their ongoing investigation. And point 7 says, our sadness that the committee by its conduct has emboldened the public lynching of our son, Idi Mohammed, and given way to growing attempt to hastily cast Idi as the murderer of Kaaka, even though this narrative directly contradicts the account of the two first responders, his mother and his wife, and even though the police have arrested and continue to hold in custody 2 other suspects in connection with Kaaka's killing. So what it is that 3 persons have been arrested in connection with Kaaka's murder, Raymond, and they include 2 persons who their claims are the bodyguard of the MC. The MC has denied those claims. He says that they are NPP polling station agents. And then there's a later arrest of a gentleman called Idi Mohammed, who is the brother of Kaaka. And the family is saying that they feel that the conduct of the committee has emboldened the public lynching of Idi Mohammed. And they think that despite the fact that the police have arrested and continue to hold in custody 2 other suspects in connection with Kaaka's killing, Raymond.
Now, the understanding is pretty clear from them. Now, they believe, and it's pretty obvious to everybody, I just spoke about it, that Kaaka's connection with Fix the Country is not in doubt. Now, even if the committee had doubts, and they had kept it to themselves, and heard all the parties, and in their report referred to some of these issues and clarified them, and made determinative statements on it, and even opinions are set in their report, there's no problem with that. What people are worried about, and the family is rightfully justified in getting worried about, is this attempt to railroad everybody into thinking that the only people that might have caused all of the happenings or prior to so were the journalists who reported. And that the journalists, by linking Kaaka to the Fix the Country grouping, erred. And they erred and caused a lot of people to jump onto the streets and demand justice for the gentleman. I doubt that was the case. And I actually doubt that was the case because the evidence on the ground suggests otherwise. Why the committee is bent on making this point, even when it has no relations with journalists? Why the committee is bent on creating the impression that it was absolute poor journalism that was displayed on the day is what's shocking many. And for you, if you're an interested party, you'll be wondering why a committee is only interested in pursuing a single line, possibly in pursuant of what's supposed to be the way forward. So that question, when it comes in, surprises not only the people out there, but these are family members. That people have lost people on their own. They will be interested in justice. And to them, justice is not going to be served when there is prejudice and unfair commentary, as the reference in their statement, being stated by the people who are supposed to do the impartial determination of facts in this case.
Let me bring you the very final point in that letter written to the Interior Minister by Kaaka's family. Says that, as we understand the scope of the committee's terms of reference, and I'm reading point 8, however nebulous, does not relate to the circumstances that led to Kaaka's murder or the circumstances that led to his burial, rather that it concerns directly the circumstances that led to the deployment of the military to intimidate and indiscriminately shoot at a community that was grieving a loved one and still trying to come to terms with the circumstances and motivations for his murder. In this connection, we, mother, wife, children, siblings, and extended family of Kaaka are least competent to assist the committee perform that mandate. For these reasons, we feel compelled to inform you that we are unable to participate in a process that seems ill-disposed to ensure truth and necessary institutional accountability. We are particularly concerned that our participation in these hearings might be construed as legitimizing the several inexcusable procedural irregularities we have above outlined. And Raymond, this morning, we've been receiving some education from our friends in the legal field, and they also talk about some of the procedures employed by the committee. They mention particularly the line of questioning, and they also talk about what they believe to be the fact that the committee should actually just be on a fact-finding mission and not courting opinions from persons who appear before it, Raymond.
And if you have read the judgment of Justice Mafusa, who is now a member of the Supreme Court panel, you would understand that, and he took pains to go through what the Commission of Inquiry is supposed to be right from its inception and what the things we've had in times past connected to it. It is true to some extent that there is an expectation that some conduct within a spectrum is expected. So, as I've said, you cannot make an impartial determination of facts when you are prejudiced in your commentary about the facts that you're receiving. And you cannot also allow people to go on a tirade and say things not related to any facts, but just run along and be making accusations, which is not based on any statement they're giving you. If you do so, what you end up doing is create the impression that you are determined ahead of the facts that you're supposed to determine. The very things you wanted to know, you're only interested in hearing the things that you think are in sync with what you already know or have determined in your mind should be the facts, and that there's no interest in full determination of the actual facts. When you do that, parties involved may feel that you're not independent enough. And if you're not independent enough or misdirected on your duties, why would they pursue you? Why would they come before you to help in any impartial determination of the fact? So when you put it together, it is just a plea from a family that's saying that so far you've not conducted yourself in a way that suggests to us that you're on the right path. And this is a very serious matter to us. We believe that you may do more harm, and our participation in your engagement would give it credence that all the parties are involved. So what's your problem? So if a party says, I'm not going to be involved, it means they have no belief and trust in your system. And that should send a signal to the committee saying today that maybe we need to step back and look at what we've done so far. If it's out of inexperience or the things that we're supposed to deal with, we didn't really know much about, going forward, we can do things differently. And that should be the kind of approach maybe they should have to this. This is not a family that's just saying that, well, we think we are guilty or we have done something wrong, so we are not going to be part of it. They believe deep in their heart that there have been problems so far, and those problems can be rectified. Imagine you going to a committee that's supposed to do an inquisition into something that's happened, and the committee suggests in every statement of theirs that one of the parties is already the one that's at fault. How do they finally come to a full determination of these facts?
Interesting, yeah. If you just joined us, this is our special coverage of the EJURA Killing Probe. It's day 4. And as you may be aware, the committee was supposed to finish its work today, but clearly, as it has written for an extension, we know that it needs more time to complete its work, and that has been approved by the Interior Minister. So the committee's work has been extended from the 9th of July, which is today, to the 16th of July, which is next week, Friday. And if you've been following the probe, you know that by now the committee should have started work. It starts at 10 a.m. In fact, chairperson of the committee, Justice Kumasi, adjourned hearing to this morning, 10 a.m. We are yet to receive any information as to what has caused the delay. But what we know this morning, apart from the extension of the committee's deadline, is that the family of Ibrahim Mohammed, alias Kaaka, has made a decision not to participate in the hearing, and that's what we've been detailing and bringing you some information on. We'll be back with more. Thank you so much for staying here on the JoyNews channel, your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. This is our special coverage of the hearing into the EJURA killings by the Justice Kumasi-led committee. Today, we're expecting to hear from the Ashanti Region Security Coordinator and 3 residents of EJURA. The topical points today is that the committee request for extension of its deadline has been granted by the Interior Minister. So instead of finishing work today, they will finish in a week's time. Also, the family of Kaaka has written to the Interior Minister, copied the chairman of the committee and the chief of EJURA, that it will not participate in the hearings. Now we've been joined by lawyer Martin Kpebu on this particular development. Good morning, lawyer Kpebu. Thank you for your time.
Yes, good morning, Benny.
Right, great to have you. So one of the points highlighted by the family of Kaaka in its decision not to participate in the committee's work has to do with the powers of the committee. And let me just read a bit of it and then you can explain, the differences. So they say, I regret with the decision to not establish this inquiry using the powers provided for under Article 278 of the 1992 Constitution. We are concerned that the failure to institute a proper commission of inquiry under Article 278 means that this committee of inquiry does not have the powers, rights, and privileges of the High Court or a justice of the High Court at a trial. And as such, the committee has no power to enforce the attendance of witnesses and examine them on oath, compel the production of documents, and issue a commission to request, or issue a commission or request to examine witnesses irrespective of where or who they may be. So these are the concerns of the family, one of the concerns of the family. And since the committee was set up, this has also been talked about a few times. Hello, lawyer.
Yes, yeah, this has been brought up a few times.
And then there are concerns that they do not have the powers of the High Court. But do you share with this assertion by the family that the committee's work will not give it as much weight as that of a committee of inquiry?
No. Once again, my condolences to the family. I mean, it's sad that in this day and age, we sat down, we didn't act on the, intelligence well, okay, and eventually it led to the deaths of more people, apart from the death of Kaaka. The death of Kaaka itself was one too many, okay, much less the death of the other people. So my condolences to the family. We pray it gets better. Now, to the question, you see, sometimes, let's put it this way, because, it's a written letter, perhaps there's more to read that is not properly captured in the letter, okay? So, subject to that, based on what I've seen in the letter, I don't share in their opinion about saying that a commission of inquiry would have been better. So, as I've said, if there are other things they wanted to express better, I've not seen in what you stated. So let's come to why I say no. You see, this matter, let's be very clear. A commission of inquiry has its own advantages and disadvantages. Then the committee of inquiry, the ministerial committee of inquiry, also has its own advantages and disadvantages. So usually before you deploy one or the other, you ask yourself that what are you looking for? What do you want? So to cut a long story short, we were not part of government. The deliberations that went on in caucus before they decided to use the committee of inquiry. But the reason I'll go with them is that with this one, listen, all the witnesses that are coming before the committee, they don't get any immunity. They cannot even pretend to get one. Then let's get this point. Let viewers, appreciate it. That the persons who come, the witnesses, are not going to get any immunity. So after each witness has come to give his evidence, if later we think that, look, this witness was actually responsible for what happened, we will prosecute that witness subsequently without any hindrance. But if we're using a commission of inquiry under the CI for commission of inquiry, okay, when the person comes to give evidence, any evidence that person gives you there, he gets immunity for that one, what he has disclosed to you. So that means that tomorrow, you cannot run to court with that same evidence and use it to prosecute him. You see, remember the case of the Republic versus Kojon Pienin, the Ghana at 50 commission report.
Yeah.
Yes. You see, when they went to court, when after the Ghana at 50 commission started and everything and finished and made adverse findings and all that, when subsequently they sought to prosecute Kojon Pienin, former chief of staff, Dr. Rekubobe, who was in charge of the Ghana at 50 commission, right, and the others, they went to court. They raised an objection that no, the evidence you are bringing to prosecute us is evidence that we gave you at the commission sitting, and it's against the law.
Okay.
Right. And that time, Justice Manfusan, sitting as a high court judge, or the additional high court judge, he upheld it. So that trial ended. So
Okay.
from day one, those who have been saying they want commission, I'm like, what do we want really? As far as for me, as a citizen, what is clear in my mind is that we want the perpetrators to be prosecuted.
All right.
Proper. So that means that after this commissions, after this committee sittings and the rest, they'll be investigating. They will fish out the perpetrators, those soldiers who did this. Thankfully, it looks like the number is small. There were 7, right? There were 7 because from what I followed so far,
Yes, but Brigadier General said there were about 10. So let's just say between 7 and 10, because some
the reason
7.
I'm saying 7 is that they themselves said also that yes, there were 10 who came, but when they got to the police station, the Lieutenant General Owari, he said they left 3 of them at the police station, and then 7 proceeded to the town.
Okay, all right, I get your
7.
point, sir. I get your point, sir.
Out of these 7, we want those who shot to be prosecuted.
Okay.
So all I'm saying in one word, to just make everything I've said here is that so far in one sentence, that we don't want to use commission of inquiry so that tomorrow when you want to prosecute these soldiers in the court of law for murder or manslaughter or the other offenses, they will come up and say, oh, but we came and gave you evidence, so we want to, it will be immune. So you see that they may call the soldiers to come and give evidence, right? But if you do, tomorrow you cannot
use that same evidence against him.
Exactly.
All right,
unless
lawyer.
you have fresh evidence, and it's difficult to prove that your evidence is fresh. That's not what they do.
So for you, a committee will help in the case that we have to do a prosecution. In this matter.
And we are pushing for.
All right, sure. I'll have you hold on at this moment. Hopefully we can get you again, because there's a lot more I want us to discuss from the letter that Kaaka's family wrote to the Interior Minister.